speakers. I now invite Honorable Justice Mahadevan to deliver his welcome, to deliver a special address at the conference. Respected Justice Mahadevan, the floor is yours now. Thank you very much.
Hon'ble Professor Federico Mayor Zagosa, President of the Foundation for Culture of Peace and former Director General of UNESCO. Hon'ble Thiru Arumugam Parasuraman, President, International Thirukkural Foundation. Dr. Chandrika Subramaniam, President, Tamil Valarchi Mandram. Mr. Rajendran IRS, founder of Voice of Valluvam Family. And Mr. Parthasarathi, CEO, Valai Tamil, Chennai. Distinguished participants assembled online here. Ladies and gentlemen, Vanakkam. I am really proud and honored to be with this august gathering on this International Day of Peace. And I thank the International Thirukkural Foundation for this excellent opportunity. I think if the United Nations is viewed as a father figure to promote the Committee of Nations around the world, the peace process it so ardently advocates bears its umbilical cord to India. September 21st was the first established as the International Day of Peace in 1981. And the said date correlates the date on which Sri Narayana Guru, the revered philosopher and social reformer of India, attained the heavenly abode in 1928. The culture of peace comes naturally to India, being the land of Mahatma Gandhi and Rabindranath Tagore, who have advocated through their lives and beyond the ideas of peace, non-violence, and tolerance. On the last date of 19th century, I would like to quote Rabindranath Tagore, the first Indian Nobel laureate, wrote precisely, I quote, "The last sun of the century sits amidst the blood-red clouds of the west and the whirlwind of hatred. The naked passion of self-love of nations, in its drunken delirium of greed, is dancing to the clash of steel and the howling voices of vengeance. The hungry self of nations shall burst in a violence of fury from its own shameless feeding." His sagacious words were sounding caution to a world that was gearing up to tear itself apart on the narrow conception of nationalism that put one nation against other. If these are the words of the most influential thinkers of the century, bygone, we may remind ourselves of Thirukkural, the immortal literary treatise that's the most translated book in the world, next only to the Bible and Quran. Thirukkural covers the entire spectrum of human life, seen from all possible angles, and has stood the test of time with 1,330 couplets, appearing more meaningful in today's time and age, even more than ever before. I'm happy to note that Professor Federico Mayor, our chief guest today, who is the chairman of the Foundation for a Culture of Peace founded in 2000, has traced the history of the culture of peace in many of his works. If the philosophy of Professor Mayor is to be succinctly stated in a single sentence, I would say it would be thus: to use the power of education to foster and inculcate the culture of peace. This very concept of creating the culture of peace through education has been stressed upon by Thiruvallur in his couplets that lay strong emphasis on education as a tool in shaping the mind and character of human beings and the values that need to be imparted to future generations for the greater good of the society, nation, and the world at large. While underscoring the importance of education, Thiruvallur always went a step further to give precedence to ethics. கற்றதனால் ஆய பயனன்கொள் வாளறிவன் நற்றாள் தொழார் எனின் can be quoted here, meaning, what is the use in all education that is not used ethically and that which does not help a man discern right from wrong? The best education system for a nation would be the one where a human mind is protruded rather than a mere intelligent or money-making machine. In the absence of virtues, howsoever successful be a man, his life is never satisfying. Some couplets that describe the importance of good education, character, and conduct. One is well known to everyone, Karka Kasadara, Karpavai Kachapin Nirka Adarka Taha, which is nothing but let a man learn thoroughly whatever he may learn, and let his conduct be worthy of his learning. Thiruvallur further says, ஒழுக்கம் விழுப்பம் தரலான் ஒழுக்கம் உயிரினும் ஓம்பப்படும். Propriety of conduct leads to eminence. That is what it means. It should therefore be preserved more carefully than life. See, just imagine, can anyone write like this in the history as well as the literature which we have seen so far? Those firm in mind, according to Thiruvallur, will not slacken in their observance of the proprieties of life, knowing as they do so the misery that flows from the transgression from them. Thiruvallur further says, virtue will confer heaven and wealth. What greater source of happiness can man possess than this? The above from Thirukkural are pulsating, and if put into practice, will certainly pave way for better humans, a better society, and a better nation, and ultimately into a better and more peaceful world, which I quoted in the judgment at that. Children whose quest for knowledge is unlimited should be drawn into principles at an early age so that they are not deviated. The future of every country lies at the hands of younger generation. It is the duty of the state to show them the rightful path, and there is no other better philosophy than what is preached in Thirukkural. When young minds are taught the moral philosophy of ethics and imparted with the right values, we can expect to have a reformed generation. During Professor Mayer's tenure as the Director General of UNESCO, by resolution of the General Assembly of 27th February 1996, I still quote, UNESCO was asked to prepare a report on the promotion of education for peace, human rights, international cooperation, and tolerance. At the beginning of 1997, the corresponding document was submitted to the Secretary General of the United Nations, which I quote, report on educational activities in the framework of the UNESCO transdisciplinary project entitled Towards a Culture of Peace. On 20th August 2009, within the General Assembly's agenda item on culture of peace, the Secretary General presented a report on the International Decade for a Culture of Peace and Non-Violence for the children of the world. This report details the activities undertaken up until 2008 in relation to the aspects which I quote, action for foster a culture of peace through education, action to promote sustainable economic and social development, action to promote respect for all human rights, action to ensure equality between men and women, action to foster democratic participation, action to advance understanding, tolerance, and solidarity, action to support participatory communication and the free flow of information and knowledge, and action to promote international peace and security. Some of the final recommendations are particularly to ensure the funding quality education for all, strengthening the education for sustainable development, promote school culture and environment that are child-friendly, conducive to effective learning, inclusive of all children, healthy, protective, and gender responsive, and encourage the active role and the participation of the learners themselves, their families, and their communities. Education to girls and women, the excluded, the poor, the marginalized, and those with special needs in a lifelong perspective. According to UNESCO and to Professor Mayer, the culture of peace is the culture of principles of temperance, serenity, and non-violence, but for firmness. Achieving global sustainable development as a basis for a new world economic system is the best way of expressing the solidarity of present generations with future generations to whom we owe a voice and action. This can be achieved only by overcoming the age-old inertia and achieving the involvement of the people. Peace is always possible if the people stop being witnesses and receivers and take the reins of destiny into their own hands. Education is the sustaining force of life and the best tool to shape minds and change the world in a better place with a long-lasting peace and tolerance has been acknowledged by many great thinkers of the world like Aristotle, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., C.S. Lewis, Socrates, Thomas Jefferson, to name a few. Thirukkural have envisioned these ideals as far as back as 2 million years before the thoughts of the above thinkers have been recorded. The couplets, if made a part of the school curriculum, act as a guiding light in every aspect of human life, particularly emphasizing on the ethical way of human life and behavior. Thirukkural touches upon the fundamentals of non-violence, virtuous and ethical living, social cooperation, and distribution of wealth and general prosperity of the community and nation, eradication of poverty, compassion, to name a few that foster the objective of peace. Remembering the minds that thought so passionately and evocatively about world peace, tolerance, non-violence, and compassion, and attempting to effectively propagate their solemn message to the present and future generations is the best possible way to observe this International Day of Peace while paying respectful homage to those enlightened minds and simultaneously spreading their light to the troubled people caught in the turmoil of war, dispute, who are today in greatest need of peace than of any other virtue. We shall lead the virtuous ideology prescribed in Thirukkural and make our contributions for the global society for peace. Thank you for this greatest opportunity to be with you on this special day. Thank you very much.